What are off angles? Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I reached eternity in Marvel Rivals by only solo queuing, and I'm here to teach you some advanced concepts in hopefully a more digestible way to help you climb the ranks. Today's video will be about off angles as DPS and how we can utilize them effectively. So, what are off angles? Off angles are flank positions that create at least 2 points of interest for your enemies. This helps reduce the pressure off the rest of your team on the objective. So what does that actually mean in the context of a game? Let's actually hop into an in-game example in Celestial rank. In this game, I'll be playing Psylocke, and will show you my thought process and how off angles help me capture the first point. First things first, I'm immediately looking for a flank position. I want to be able to create those 2 points of interest for their backline as soon as possible. I grab the attention of Luna, who has to at least acknowledge my presence, and after taking a bit of damage, I decide to go for a health pack to stabilize, but recognize that the Storm actually wants to take a 1v1 against me. This is an easy duel in my eyes, so I take the 1v1 and come out on top. Once I stabilize again, I'm already looking for another off angle, so I take this high ground position to create another point of interest for the enemies. Since I took a bit of damage, I try to do a sneaky health pack steal, but realize that it's gone and I have a Loki and Hela in my face, so quickly just decide to get out. Once I know they're not following me, I go back to the high ground position to try to get some easy shots onto the enemies. Notice how I'm using natural cover whenever I'm off angling, and this is to reduce the amount of free damage I'm taking. Less damage means that I can stay on this position for longer. I get the final hit on Loki and immediately get hit by Storm, who's coming back from spawn. But since my team was able to push forward with my previous picks, I go ahead and just clean the rest of them up to get an easy first point cap. Okay, that almost looked too easy. So let's actually pause and rewatch that point from the perspective of the enemy Luna to see what went wrong. At the start of the round, you can see that my off angle catches the attention of Luna. Now, I don't immediately get a kill here, but it does introduce the 2 points of interest, which makes it significantly harder for Luna to heal in the long term. As you can see from Luna's perspective, after my initial off angle, she is constantly looking to the left, either due to my presence or the damage I'm outputting beyond her line of sight. This makes it way harder for Luna to keep track of who to heal, and most importantly, it prevents her from building her ultimate quick enough to contest the first point. Now, let's actually check out another Celestial game, but this time from a Psylocke who maybe didn't off angle as much as they should have. At the start of this round, it did look pretty promising. The Psylocke looked like they were trying to go for a flank here, but getting caught by this Magneto seemed to scare them from ever trying again. As for the rest of this round, let's take a closer look at the timer on the top, while I bring up a great quote from Rita Mae Brown, which says, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result." And while that quote might not always be true in every case, it definitely is here. So yeah, now that you've seen the difference in how they can be effective, you're probably wondering, this is great and all, but how do I off angle on my main character? And that's a good question. Not every duelist can do deep flanks like Psylocke, but every duelist has some level of off angle that they can utilize. Let's check out a few other DPS characters to show you what I mean. We'll use Hela as our first example. She does high damage at pretty much any range with her left click, and she has a great movement ability in her bird form, allowing her to not only find strong off angle positions for easy shots, but also escape from off angle positions when caught in unfavorable situations. Next, we'll check out Bucky, who kinda has a similar kit to Hela. He has a gun that does high damage at any range, and he has a movement ability that gives him a slight dash, albeit not as great as Hela's. Unfortunately though, Bucky suffers from what I call being an alt farmer. Again! Because his ultimate is so strong and you can build it fairly quickly, you're almost forced to play with your team in order to keep your damage uptime high. And because his movement ability isn't as great and can't go invulnerable like Hela, he can't off-angle as deep without getting caught out. Now, this isn't to say that Bucky is completely immune from off-angles. It just means that finding and timing those off-angles is way more important, as there will be less frequent opportunities to do so.
Told you to keep your paws off.
Star-Lord is also a character that I would consider an alt farmer. Because his ultimate is so strong, you usually want to be farming it as quickly as possible. You see a lot of high-level Star-Lords use their boost in combination with their blaster barrage to farm their ults quickly. But don't let that stop you from also using the boost to find off angles to get the upper hand in a fight. Characters like Magik and Spiderman, who excel in high burst damage and quick movement, can find themselves off-angling almost all the time. When playing these characters, the most important thing is timing your engagements and knowing when to disengage. If your team isn't able to follow up with your engagement, you're basically fighting a 1v6. These characters are very independent. If you need heals, you either grab a health pack or go back to your healers. Don't expect healers to come to you. Characters like Storm and Hawkeye, who are better in long-range combat but lack strong movement abilities, may find it very difficult to off-angle often. Flyers like Storm can use the corners of tall buildings as natural cover to create a vertical off-angle, but should always try to stay in the line of sight of the healers. Hawkeye is in a similar boat. With his lack of movement abilities, he's prone to getting dove easily. Since they can both do high amounts of damage from long range, you can get quick and easy kills on an off-angle to win the fight. While I can't go through every DPS in the game, as that would make this video way too long, hopefully those are enough examples to apply to your main character if they weren't mentioned specifically. Alright, last two very important tips before the end of this video. First, going on an off angle does not mean you have to secure the kill. There are times where your off angle will just not work, and it is okay to go back to your team to regroup. If you're constantly on an off angle and getting no value, the rest of your team is essentially playing a 5v6 the entire time. Don't be married to your flank and just look for a new off angle once you're regrouped. Second, and this is more just a hard truth than a tip, is that there will be less opportunity to find off angles the higher rank you are. This is because players in higher elo will generally have better aim, more awareness of their surroundings, and can punish players who try to off angle from risky positions. Timing and picking your engagements should be your priority. With this in mind, if you're in the lower ranks, don't be afraid to off-angle more often. You'll be surprised at what you can get away with. That's the end of the video. If this guide helped you at all, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.